What's up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of History Before Us, and I am in Richmond, Virginia. I've been here for the past 4 days, having a great time exploring tons of historic sites. But right now, I'm at a very important site of some unheralded history that a lot of you just may not know about, not only here in Virginia, but across the globe. And this really speaks to the greatness of Blackness whenever you get the opportunity to liberate yourself. Whenever you get the opportunity to advocate for your people, you're able to build community, and we're doing that now, and that has also happened back in the day. And we are right now at the Skipwith-Roper Cottage, and I'm here with Dr. Moon. What's up, Dr. Moon?
Hi, how are you?
Fresh off a Breakfast Club interview.
Yes.
And still fresh. And hold on, wait a minute. Where's Benji? Benji. Where's Benji? What's up, Benji? Benji is not camera shy.
He is not. He is not.
So this is a very special place.
Yes.
And what I love to do for my audience is introduce them to places that they just may not have heard of, right?
Okay.
Things that aren't in the history book, things that, you know what I'm saying, has been covered, things that are intentionally oppressed. But today we're not doing that. We're going to speak it out loud, right?
Yeah.
Close to July 4th.
Gonna see it out loud.
Yeah, we're going to see it out loud too, right?
Yeah.
And so please let individuals know about you, your love for history, and exactly where are we?
Okay, so first of all, my name is Dr. Sesha Joy Moon. You are in the heart of Jackson Ward in my hometown of Richmond, Virginia, and you are standing at the entrance of the Skipwith-Roper Cottage and the JXN Haus. We're gonna come inside because I am a Black woman and it is humid and hot. And I'm trying to save my blowout, so come on in.
Her hair's it's not like mine, y'all. So, and so obviously there's a difference between the JXN Haus and the cottage. So can we dive into that as well at some point?
So this is phase 1 of the JXN Haus. The JXN Haus is the headquarters for the JXN Project, which is a historic preservation nonprofit dedicated to uncovering the origin story of Jackson Ward. Just so you know, Jackson Ward is the nation's first historically registered Black urban neighborhood. We are one of the original Black Wall Street. And so from this side over, our operational headquarters, and then spaces for rental, as well as our offices. And then when you enter that door, hopefully you're transported back into the 1700s, and that is the Skipwith-Roper Cottage.
And when people think about our history, I don't think that they often think about the 1700s, right? No. Because we weren't taught that.
No, we skipped from our arrival in 1619 then to our emancipation in 1865.
Absolutely.
And that 1700 period and the founding of this country, we're kind of lost in that narrative on purpose.
For sure. And it's beautiful in here as it relates to the architecture and things like that and the design. Who was responsible and so forth and so on.
Shout out to Baskerville, Bert Pinnock. He is a world-renowned architect who designed this space. If you look, it's a lot of angles in the space, and we want to, maybe I should explain why.
Sure.
So when we were understanding more about Skipwith's will, we realized that he was actually buried at his home. The first public Black cemetery was not established in Richmond until 1799. He died in that same year. Talk about a whole nother body of research that's available for someone to do, where are Black and Indigenous bodies throughout a historical campus like Richmond, Virginia. And so when we realized he was buried at his home, we felt a responsibility to do an archaeological analysis of this space before we began to dig. And so we found 3 things. We found one cellar that was over in one corner, another cellar over, and then we believe a family of 5 Black Richmonders buried in the middle of the site. And so
meaning like in the yard area?
Where the grassy knoll area is.
Okay, gotcha.
And so we decided, 1, not to disrupt that family, and then 2, to build around it. And so that's why we have a meditative garden out front. So he did a great job at still making sure that we were able to achieve everything that we needed in the space while also honoring the ancestors. And then the space was built by Team Henry Enterprises, which is the gentleman and the company responsible for bringing down the Confederate monuments.
I love the connection.
Right? Isn't that crazy? Yeah, it's crazy how things work out. And then I want to show you this wall. This wall is deeply important. This was done, it was a collaboration between Mind Hatch Creative and Richmond Digital, and it is a expanded version of the Micaiah Bates map of Jackson Ward in the 1800s. And if you want to see where Skipwith's original home was, it was on Duval Street.
On Duval Street?
Yeah, so we hope that when you walk in, that we're giving you an interactive experience to learn the histories of the ward.
Yeah. As it relates to your love for history, where did that come from?
I think if you're from Richmond, you kind of have no choice.
Yeah. You live it every day, right?
Yeah, you live it. I mean, it's kind of hard, you know. We're from a place where every school, street, statue is named after a person. And so we are kind of like, between us and Williamsburg, we're kind of round one destination for history. And so growing up, I've always just been deeply interested. When I went to college, my bachelor's in African American history. And so it's just kind of been with me as an interest, I guess, since childhood.
I love it.
Yeah.
So they're doing some work on that side, y'all. So we're going to mosey our way on here, if you don't mind. And I feel like if you're fine, that we could give a shout out to Pops.
Oh.
I mean, come on. If it's too soon.
No.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, I'm a big guy on that.
Thank
so,
you.
Yes, Brother Moon.
August Moon, my dad was a social justice advocate. He was an entertainer. A lot of people know he was a kind of a cultural giant in Richmond. Okay. But a lot of people know my dad in the music industry because he produced a very famous beat. It's called 7 Minutes of Funk, and it is the beat from dun 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 dun. So like ain't no that's my dad's beat. So a lot of people know my dad from multiple iterations of his life, but he's also a major reason why me and my sister, who founded this organization, are who we are and brought us to this work. So long live Mr. Wiggles.
Man, long live. That's what's up. So,
hold on, we gotta start it off. You gotta get the full,
we gotta get the grand entrance.
You gotta get the full experience.
There you go, the Skipwith-Roper. Let's roll.
Oh boy.
Benji has a personality, y'all. Y'all don't even know. I ain't gonna tell y'all what happened behind the scenes with Benji. You know what I'm saying? That's hilarious.
God, that was hilarious.
As it relates to the individual who we are actually talking about, Mr. Skipwith, right? Do you mind giving us some of his origin story, please?
Okay. So also, and I want to make it clear.
Yeah.
I want to give you an origin story about JXN Project first.
Okay.
So in 2020, my sister Enjoli has a film festival called the Africana Independent Film Festival. Because we're in the thick of COVID, she needed to screen outdoors. So she decided to screen across multiple communities across the city of Richmond. Because I love history, she hits me up and she's like, hey, Sesha, can you pair each of the communities with Black facts? And so I was like, sure, I love doing that kind of stuff. Because everything is named after a person in Richmond, to ask who is something named after would be a very exhausting exercise. But for the first time ever, I was like, who is Jackson and Jackson Ward? It just never dawned on me to ask until 5 years ago. And I'm thinking, okay, Google is about to answer that very quickly. No. Sent me down like a rabbit hole of research, up to about 5 or 6 different Jacksons presented themselves. That's how we became in a close partnership with the Library of Virginia, trying to get to the answer of who is Jackson. While Black Richmonders believed that it was for Giles B. Jackson, who was the first Black man to be barred to practice law in the Commonwealth. When you look at the chronological timelines, it was impossible. Yeah. And then when you realize that Jackson Ward, which we have inherited in future generations as just a beloved Black community, it's lost that no, Jackson Ward did not get his name until 1871 as a gerrymandered political district. It was part of the Reconstruction era, and it was a concerted effort to create this Black community to dilute political power. All lost to history. And so that led us to evidence that suggests that it's more than likely named after Stonewall Jackson because of some of the artifacts we've recovered. That is important to explain, because just as all of that history was lost, so was Skipwith's. So I would just want to make it clear that me and my sister are just 2 little Black girls from Richmond who asked a question, who is Jackson and Jackson Ward? And it led us to uncovering this about Skipwith. So speaking of Library of Virginia, the reason why Skipwith came to us is because in addition to, we did an effort to recontextualize the ward and we rededicated it to Giles B. Jackson. And then what we also learned was that most of the streets across the ward were named after either enslavers or Confederates or pro-slavery sympathizers. And so we did the largest mass street installation for honorary names in the city's history.
Yeah, and I see it everywhere too.
You see them, it's all over. But we were like, okay, well, we want to do the full breadth of the ward. So we want to do some contemporary figures. And then I went back to Library of Virginia, Dr. Greg Kimball, that's my boo. I said, Greg, do you know who the oldest Black Jackson Wardian is that we know of? And he was like, actually, Sesha, I do. His name is Abraham Skipwith. We don't know a lot about him, but I did an article on him in 1994. He had a 3-roof gambrel roof cottage, and he built it in 1793. But that was about all that anyone knew about this man.
And so real quick, so you hearing that and hearing the year, 1793, like when you first absorbed that, like what was that?
So much of the history of the ward was lost between that, that 1700 time frame, and it really picks back up in 1865. And so we did not know who Abraham Peyton Skipwith was, because really the cultural giants that we celebrate are at that late 1800s, early 1900s in Jackson Ward. The Maggie Walkers of the world, the Giles B. Jacksons of the world, the John Mitchells, etc. Not realizing that there was a Black Jackson Wardian whose shoulders they all have stood on for nearly a century before they came along. And so in order to rename a street, you have to build pretty much a bio in order to be able to advance the legislation. And so back in the library I went. World's longest sisterly favor, by the way. Okay, this is supposed to be a 10-minute ask that's turned into a 5-year project.
Right.
And so, I mean, the fact we did not know this man's story is a travesty.
Yeah.
But what I find to be so interesting is that he timed his revelation to us so perfectly, just in time to reveal himself as a founding father, right in time for America 250.
That's right.
So as mentioned, we've been able to retrace his life to as early as 1767, but we don't know his birth date. So Abraham Peyton Skipwith, he was married to a woman named Chloe, and this is his family tree as far as we have been able to retrace it. Unfortunately, his family, as far as a blood lineage, has died off. And what you will hear, and I will let you get this in B-roll, Elizabeth Perilla was one of his last known descendants. She is directly connected to the First Baptist Church in Williamsburg, one of the oldest congregations in the country. And the finds of this project have just been phenomenal. College of William and Mary interviewed her for a history project in the 1980s, right before her death, like 3 or 4 years before her death, and she talks about the Skipwith-Ropers. So we also have a firsthand account of what they looked like.
I would like to see
and so when you come in here, we have a button of the audio of the interview. Okay. So now you are in the cottage. What is so important to note is that he actually had a 3-level home. We only did 2 levels because, as mentioned, we now know that there are both some sacred spaces on the land, so we did not disrupt the space that we're on.
Okay.
Everything that you're seeing in the cottage is historically accurate to his will. Either it is a recreation, it is a commission, or it is a donated item from the 1700s. So this beautiful horse and wagon that pays homage to the horse and buggy mentioned in the will was commissioned by Colonial Williamsburg Foundation. I love that he had a gun, and he talked about it unapologetically.
Yes.
He had china, he had tea kettles and all the things. The tea kettle is donated from Valentine Museum, and the dishes are donated by Historic Textiles. And then over here, I think what is so important, we talked about the archaeological dig.
For sure.
What ended up being so important about that dig was a couple of things. One, beyond the fact you let us know that a family is here. And if you look through, you see how that little patch of grass looks different?
I do.
Yeah, you can.
Is that where?
That's where they are.
Okay.
But then look at these historical finds. So what is so important to know?
And when you say finds, these are finds that were here on the premises?
That were here.
Oh, wow.
These are uninterrupted medicinal bottles. Why this is so incredible is because on that next block over, in addition to that being the childhood home, the block where the childhood home of Bilbo Jangles Robinson was located, it was also the location of Sarah Garland Boyd's Jones' first medical practice. She's the first Black woman to study medicine, to be licensed in Virginia. So these are from her practice.
Wow.
And had we not done this, these incredible artifacts would have been lost to time.
That's
it is incredible.
That is pretty dope.
These torpedo bottles go back to the 1830s.
Yeah.
And then, we'll talk about this a little bit, but, Skipwith's home was removed from the site, so this isn't where his original home was placed.
Was it too far from here, or was it pretty close?
It's about 6 blocks over.
Okay.
I feel like Skipwith sends us signs often, because I don't feel like, people ask me and Enjoli all the time, how did you all pull all this off? And we're like, the answer is Skipwith.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do between Abraham and August.
Yeah.
We have nothing to do with this, because you can't explain 2 little Black girls asking a question and it leading to a nonprofit. it leading to a historic site, it leading to an exhibition with Mellon, Library of Virginia, and NEH, it leading to a PBS documentary, and being able
which you're
to,
part of.
yes.
We'll dive into that.
And to be able to fundraise $6 million in gifts and grants in less than 3 years.
Yeah.
There are nonprofits who have been around for decades who can't achieve what we have achieved, because I don't feel like it was for us.
For sure.
You know, this it wasn't our doing. You know, I feel like this is an ancestral assignment, you know, and even when we were talking about that window, remember I was saying that there was this window that he presented himself, you know, 250 years later. What people don't realize is Skipwith was actually able to manumit himself during a very specific window. In the late 1700s, folks were able to secure manumission without government approval. Their enslavers could approve it. Why that's important is because that time frame soon expired at the 1800s, 1801 time frame, because a gentleman named Gabriel tried to do what he had to do for his freedom.
Absolutely.
Okay, and it's called Gabriel's Conspiracy. And so then that ability to manumit yourself came off the books. So Skipwith freed himself at a very specific time. I mentioned that because, as mentioned, Enjoli led me to ask this question in 2020 in the wake of George Floyd. That led to our ability to receive this land for $1 for, you know, as an act of reparative justice. But the truth is, Jackson was founded in a very specific window to be able to pull all of this off. Because the truth is, if we ask that same question today, let's just be honest, none of this would have been possible in today's climate. So the reason I mention all of that is because I think that he sends us heavenly winks. And so he had China, as we said, in his will. This is the type of China that was specific to that time period. Why did we find, so that's what it looked like, uninterrupted. Why did we find these pieces on this site? And remember, this wasn't the original location of the home.
Right.
And so it's just like,
yeah.
May the ancestors be pleased. And, you know, we talk about this. We had two goals. One, that we make Skipwith a national name, that his story is told because we believe there's a Jackson Ward and Abraham Peyton Skipwith waiting to be found all across this country.
For sure.
And then two, that he can finally rest in peace because we believe that he died thinking that he had done everything right and that all of his belongings would stay intact. You know, he makes sure to say forever at the end of his will. Every paragraph he ends with "and forever," and it didn't work out that way. And so we hope that with reconstructing his home, doing this film, interviewing with people like you and your incredible audience, that he can finally rest well.
Well, let me ask this question, because obviously he has a will. Did he learn how to read and write, you know, right after manumitting, or was
this is my favorite part.
Yeah, let's get into it. Yes.
All right, so we're going to start here. So this document is from 1775. It's called Variety and the Vicissitudes of Life. It is written by the daughter of his enslavers. She was an author. Her name is Eliza Brent Carrington. Now, what is so interesting about this is, I'll set the scene for you.
Yeah, please do.
She is watching her parents speak, like in a conversation in a parlor.
Okay.
She's just recording what they're saying in real time. It's such an important document to me because of a couple of things. First, they start off, "Surely Abram knows to bring me my tea." So now we have a first-hand placement of Skipwith in a room in 1775. Second, they start talking about, Jacqueline says to Rebecca, first of all, you need to stop drinking all that tea. And then second, I heard they just threw many chests of it in the water up north, not knowing that they're describing the Boston Tea Party, right? And so then they start having this robust conversation about being oppressed by the Queen Mother and freedom and liberty. Now, why this scene is super important is for a couple of reasons. First of all, the audacity. How are you talking about being oppressed while actively oppressing somebody? You just ask somebody to bring your tea. It's just the cognitive dissonance necessary to be an enslaver, right? Second, Eliza saw her parents as the subjects, and the white gaze normally, lends itself to that. I did not. When I read this document, Skipwith is the main character to me because he's pouring the tea, but he's getting the tea. Yeah. He's listening to what will eventually become the American Revolution and the Revolutionary War. And so he's hearing about these concepts of freedom, liberty, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Yep. But with that, he is gaining a political savvy. He has relationships with the founding generation, but also he's learning like a business acumen. So I say all that to say, no, he was able to read and write before, and this is how we know. So first of all, this is an interaction. Oh, this, you see, Shirley Abram has forgotten to bring the tea kettle this evening. And it's almost 5 o'clock, said a good lady sitting in her little parlor in York sometime in the month of June, 1775. Abram knows not how absolutely necessary it is for my comfort. I could almost rejoice at the news I had just heard from Boston of they're just consigned to the deep many chests of it. In consequence of the continued oppressions heaped upon us by the mother country, the Bostonians have rebelled, and the first sacrifice of an insignificant plant is the earnest of what Americans shall be found to do to resist oppression. I wonder what has gotten to the head of these here colonists. They seem to have quite forgot themselves and their duty. I wish they may not be sorry for all this fuss about nothing. Silence said the prudent and sagacious. What's that word?
Yeah, we're gonna roll with it.
What's that? What
sagacious.
Sagacious?
Like, and that may be Tennessee talk, since I'm from Tennessee, but it may be
what is
sagacious.
That? No, it might be sagacious. What is that?
You know what? I'm gonna think that it's something not good. And I don't even know. So y'all don't be too hard on us.
Somebody, do you have a chat? I feel like the kids.
Yeah, chat.
Tell us what sagacious or saggish, whatever. Tell us what this word is. Must be our motto wife. We cannot foresee how all this is to end. Oh, I love this. I love your stuff.
Yeah, man. Listen.
That's so good. So anyway, this to me, all of the documents are fascinating. But this one, it just shows the mindset of an enslaver. So then, this is how we know he also knows how to read and write, because then in 1785, he files a legislative petition for freedom. Again, he's in these rooms taking in information, and so now he even knows to file a legislative petition with the Speaker of the House of Virginia. And so it's a couple of points in here that are important. So remember I said that Ambler lost his wealth in the Battle of Yorktown, so he changed his hands to a gentleman named Thomas Bentley. What's important to know is that the arrangement was that Skipwith was only supposed to work for Bentley for a couple of years. Okay. It's mentioned in the document. And then Bentley was supposed to free him because Ambler was supposed to free him too. Bentley, though, who's an explorer, okay, self-described. If you actually go do some research in Illinois, there are books written about Bentley because people believe that he is responsible for bringing the revolution to that area. Okay. He helps to colonize an indigenous community. He's then arrested for pretty much being a turncoat and double dealing on both sides. When he is arrested, it's like a whole drama up there. When he's arrested, he accuses the executive of his estate of sleeping with his wife, Marguerite Bouvet. Oh. When he gets out of prison, he dies abruptly. One of his friends doesn't want Marguerite to get the money and tries Bentley wills her $1. But Bentley is like rich. So she's like, hell no. Right. And she takes him to court. And when I say it gets messy, like they pretty much put up the equivalent of like billboards and like of calling her a whore around town, right? So trying to make her lose the case. Why that is important is because Skipwith, once he found out that Bentley dies, he files a legislative petition for his freedom, 1785, but it's not granted until 4 years later because he's property. And Marguerite is caught up in court.
Now, was there anyone in particular, was there someone that was representing him, or was he going in and doing
No, himself. And so this is why this petition is so important. First of all, he identifies himself as a mixed race man. So he lets us know that. He lets us know who his enslaver is. He lets us know, that he's writing to the Honorable Speaker of the House of the House of Delegates. It's a couple of things I want to make sure that I show you in here. Okay. And where is it? Maybe, let me see. Unfortunate characteristic. Here it is. Mulatto man. What page is it on? He makes sure to say, I can't find it right now. He makes sure to say, do not call me the unfortunate characteristic of a slave. And that will be highlighted in the film. But if it's not highlighted here, we need to add that. I appreciate it. We're not open yet, folks. So this this is a very good interview for me. Here it is. I'm regarded as a clerk and assistant than the unfortunate character of a slave. He
wanted to be named. He
made sure to say, he talks about the disposition of money and care and effects of the property, because while Bentley is out exploring, he's in charge of his store. And so not only could he read and write, he could count. He could manage books. He was running a business.
He wasn't going
on
to
his
introduce
behalf.
himself.
Correct.
And didn't want others to
in
do
front of
the
the
same.
Speaker of the House,
Right,
he made
for
sure to say, "I'm a man."
Yeah.
Okay. And so I fascinating document. And so a couple of things. So when we think about, so he filed this on November 22nd, 1785. I mean, just how beautiful, right?
Yeah. And this is it's interactive too, y'all. So whenever this
Yes.
thing, whenever it gets open, y'all will be able to touch.
Please come. And so, and what's also incredible, all of these documents are either on file with Henrico, the County of Henrico, the City of Richmond at the Library of Virginia, or Colonial Williamsburg. We have seen the physical copies of all of these, which is also super incredible. When you had said you're about to hear about our histories, I made sure to say see, because it's very rare to have a Black story from the 1700s where you have evidence of their home, you have evidence of their writings, you have audio of their descendants, and you have firsthand accounts of their life.
Sure.
That is very rare. So anyway, and then we'll go to his will. So then he is freed in 1789, 2 weeks after Marguerite settles her estate. We know that he was in the Yorktown, Williamsburg area at this time, and then his next known placement is in 1793 when he buys these parcels of land and builds his home on 400 West Duval Street, which is now non-surviving. Why that is super important is because the year immediately after he builds that home, the next thing that he does is manumit Chloe and one of his granddaughters.
Wow.
I just love that he did that in 1794, and we have those documents too. And so he's older, and in 1797 he pens the will, and then he passes away in 1799. The will is incredible, people.
Yeah.
Incredible, most incredible document.
When you first looked at it, what were the emotions and everything that?
Disbelief.
Yeah, for
I mean, it's no other word. I mean, this man had gold, silver, china, horse, buggy, the parcels of land, guineas, which were the coins of the time. He makes sure he has instructions. It's the instructions for me. It's like, he says, go around the house, look for any guineas, which is very much so Black coded, I mean, of course they did not have formalized banks back then, but you still have some elders today that's still tucking money across the house.
I mean, you got to go look for the Crown Royal bags.
Yeah, I know. Getting that mattress. Okay, it might be a little something, a little chunk of change in there.
I still got my Crown Royal bag full of change.
And he says, go around the house and then pay off my debts. And then after you pay off my debts, manumit the rest of my kids.
Wow.
And then after you do that, make sure that Maria, my granddaughter, is educated.
Yeah.
He gives instructions. I've since learned that it's like, it depends on when you ask me. I have different parts of the will at different parts of this project. At first, it was the gun, because it was just so revolutionary and bold. Then it became the horse and buggy, because to have a horse and buggy in the 1700s in Richmond and you're not driving in service to an enslaver, unheard of. That's like the equivalent of having like a Mercedes at the time,
for sure.
But now he told one of his sons, take 10 of my suits.
10.
Like, well,
not just 1, 10.
But that means you have more than 10, because you told him to take 10.
Yeah.
I know men today that don't have 10 suits.
I'm one of them. I will happily admit that, and shamelessly admit that.
But it's just like, who are you?
Yeah.
And then the things that he had in his will, he died in the same year as George Washington and Patrick Henry. And when you look at the will, he owned some of the same materials that they had in their will, and I was just like, oh my God, he was a man of means. And speaking of Patrick Henry, the executor of his estate was associated to the church where Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me death. So when we talk about this man is directly rooted to the American Revolution, these are the type of stories that also need to be told as we prepare for the 4th of July next weekend. So let's go upstairs.
Yeah, let me ask you about, so obviously he's identified himself as a mulatto man.
Yes.
And his access to so much, he was obviously adorned by folks.
Yes.
Do we feel, or do you feel that whoever his father is, individuals speak it, was a man of influence?
Oh, I mean, had to be. I mean, if he's connected to the Skipwiths, which he has to be in some way, shape, or form, absolutely. But then also his lot in life and his treatment in life lets us know. I mean, this is not the normal experience of even freed or enslaved Black person in Virginia. So we know that he came from somebody of means and influence, for sure. Even the hands that he has changed when enslaved, they were with the most prominent people. And you know how I know that not only when Skipwith was a man descended from someone of means, they had standing. So when we think about the house, he wills the house. So a couple of things, which is a great segue. He passes away in 1799. The house stays in the family's custody for over 100 years. The descendants are now are known as the Skipwith-Ropers. And Maria becomes her and her growing family become pillars of what would become Jackson Ward in the wake of Reconstruction. So some of the Skipwith-Ropers become the city's first council members, and they become prominent leaders. Why I know that then they became people of means is because when Maria got married, she had her second marriage at the cottage. So this is in 1853, I believe is the year. And we also have the newspaper articles. She gets married here, and I guess it was the party of the night. Yeah. Mind you, we're not at emancipation yet, okay? So I guess someone traveling to the wedding, either they lost their freedom papers or they either had forged freedom papers. Something happened with the freedom papers and they got caught up. So then the police come here and they arrest everybody in the cottage.
Damn.
The mayor then comes down and says, not them, let them go.
They had a little influence. Just a tiny bit, right?
And they name all of the Black folks who were arrested. And then the next morning, mayor comes down and says, not them.
Let me, because I would be remiss if I didn't say this.
Yeah.
Even him purchasing his freedom, his folks, being able to have the wedding, being in the cottage, etc. I think that sometimes individuals who try to downplay the institution of enslavement or individuals being free, people of color, quote unquote, don't recognize the mental anguish that sometimes is associated with that. For one, you're seeing your folks still being enslaved.
Oh, yeah.
And for two, at any point in time, this whole thing can be taken away, right? And so for you, thinking of it also through that lens, what is your
That's so
ideology?
crazy that you would say that, because chat, I feel like I'm casting knowledge. Chat, we did not prepare for this interview.
No.
I just met this brother about 30 minutes ago.
Yep.
And you were asking so many questions that we still are grappling with right now. So it's a couple of things that we talk about as a project. Okay. First of all, how was he viewed in community? Because he's free, his wife and his granddaughter are free, but his original house abutted against a gentleman named Isaac Judah, who had both freed and enslaved mixed race, all Black people in his household. He had the children who are believed to be associated with George Wythe, who's on the Supreme Court. Skipwith is also now directly connected to John Marshall, because one thing I did not mention is Eliza Carrington's sister, Polly, marries John Marshall. So he's in this weird dichotomy of knowing the founding fathers, and now he's freed, but then he's seeing enslaved people all around him. Even though I'm proud of the horse and buggy, when he was riding around Richmond in his horse and buggy, where we here he go. What was that relationship with? Because he is grappling with so many identities at the time. And then, which brings me to the bed. This is a rope bed gifted to us by Preservation Virginia. And what's so interesting about understanding enslavement at that time, and the fabrics were made by Historic Textiles. Enslaved laborers, especially in urbanized environments, because people don't realize, people like Skipwith were able to manumit themselves, and Richmond had a large manumitted Black community in the 1850s, because we, in the wake of the American Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, you have industries forming, manufacturers developing, and so plantations were being, those laborers were coming from the plantations into the city center to work at plants like Tredegar Iron Works. And so what you have is, that's how Jackson Ward is starting as a community, because you have these people who were being boarded or, you know, renting out facilities because they weren't even living with their enslaver. They're able to gain income, you know, through these side hustles, you know. And so you have houses popping up. These are the first Black-owned businesses that we know about as a country. Right. And so then you're able to earn income to be able to manumit yourself during that particular window. Why that's important to know is because when we do the famous field trips that Virginia loves, which are to plantations, not farms, they're plantations. We only know about the plantation enslavement system. And so we think about enslaved laborers living in an outhouse somewhere. But in urbanized environments, you were living under the house, you were living above the house, and or if you were a woman in particular, you were sleeping at the bed of your enslaver, at the bedside of your enslaver.
There was sorry to interrupt, but there's a plantation in Louisiana, and like right at the bed, it's worn because that's where the enslaved humans were sleeping at. Like, so you could literally see the discoloration in the wood because of where someone was sleeping.
So imagine that you can't even get a good night's sleep.
No, man.
You are always on watch. Like we think about your nervous system, right?
Yeah.
So why bringing that full circle to your question, he had a bed.
Yeah.
And I wonder when he and his wife and his granddaughter went to sleep each night, what was that feeling? And I'm pretty sure it was complicated. One, oh my God, I'm in a bed, we've done it. But do you have this ever-present anxiety that this could be taken from us at any moment? Yeah. Like, is this real? How long will this last? And so I think about how complicated it must have been to have been Abraham Peyton Skipwith and the Skipwith-Roper family. Yeah. So anyway, before we tell you about the travesty of what happened to the house, guys,
this would be one of his 10 suits, and this is not his, you all, but
and this is based on his will. I mean, this man was fresh to death.
He was fresh. Look at those kicks.
Come on now.
Yeah.
He was getting it.
Yeah. As it relates to the construction of the cottage now, was there anything that he stated from a written standpoint that as far as the design of the room and everything, or was it just during the time period?
I'll get to that. So we'll talk about that on part 3. Okay. We're on part 2, so we're almost there. So then a couple of more things from everything from his will. He, like we said, he had china, he had silver, he had a stopwatch. These are replica guineas. He had brooches, he had winter chairs. It is just absolutely phenomenal.
Benji, you learning too, right?
Say, I know this place.
Yeah.
See, I know this place like the back of my hand. And so now let's get to the disheartening part. Okay. So house stays in the family's custody for 100 years. They sell it to another Black-owned family in the 1904, 1905 time period. Because as I said, even though he had a lot of descendants, they soon died off. And the family was known as the Deviney Colemans. They hold on to the house until around the 1940 time period, and then they are forcibly removed by way of eminent domain to make room for Richmond-Petersburg Turnpike, which is also Interstate 95. Yeah. So they then exit the home, and we are thinking that the home is demolished, as most things are. Sure. And it's very important. His will has been so eye-opening because it has taught us that people were buried at their homes. So we think about Interstate 95, we think about the 1,000+ businesses and homes that they took from this community, but we don't talk about the bodies. That interstate took people's final resting places, right? So we're thinking it's done, house is gone, damn. This sucks. Michael Paul Williams, Pulitzer Prize winning Michael Paul Williams of the Richmond Times-Dispatch, he hits me up again. He's like, Sesha, I don't think the house is gone. And I was like, what you mean? He was like, I'm gonna send you this little Goochland Gazette article. And we know you love to do your research. Right. Again, longest sisterly favor ever.
10 minutes to eternity.
And he's like, go do your thing. I make a phone call, and I call who I think might have the home. And I'm like, hey, do you have the Skipwith-Roper Cottage? And the person's like, yes. Come on by the farm. Love to have you. Now, my naivete. Oh, my naivete. Me, Michael Paul Williams, a couple of people from community, and my sister, we go to what we're thinking is a farm. And immediately upon hitting the property, we all like jolt in the car because we see an enslaved laborer bill. And I'm like, oh my God, wow, duh, it's a plantation. So we get there, come to find out it's the former plantation for the Secretary of War for the Confederate Army. That is where his home has been relocated to.
How far was that from?
It's about 45 minutes.
Okay.
So instead of destroying the home was purchased for $25 after divesting generations of Black Virginians and Americans from their well-documented intergenerational pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. Because don't forget, Skipwith's will says, bequeath to my descendants forever.
Forever, yeah.
And we are able to see a renovated version of the cottage that has been used for personal use since pretty much it was moved in the 1950s.
Man.
And so heartbreaking, and understanding, particularly because the home was moved, because not only is it the first Black home documented in Richmond, it's one of the oldest homes.
Yeah.
Period. It is a architectural gem of sorts. But that allowed us to go inside the home. We were able to gather enough data from that and its relocation in the 1950s to then be able to get on the interior and exterior, and then to be able to have a factually accurate restoration of the home.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? And so,
but someone also had to know the importance of that home in particular to take it 40 some odd minutes away.
well, yeah,
right?
so that family had been tracking the home for architectural purposes, but not for its contributions to Black history.
Okay, I got you.
Correct.
Okay.
So they were like, oh, we can't destroy this home. It's just one of the oldest homes in Richmond. But we don't have to preserve Skipwith, though. You see, again, so even that we know we're talking about earlier about the cognitive dissonance.
Yep.
It carries across generations as well. And so, but you know what? He presented himself just in time. We said, okay, we're gonna reconstruct this thing. And shout out to Commonwealth of Virginia, Mellon Foundation, Weisberg Foundation, Dominion Energy, Cabell Foundation, Mary Martin Parsons, so many key stakeholders, the city of Richmond, and each individual donor who gave a gift or a grant, and no matter how big or how small, to help us pull off reconstructing this Black man and his family's home.
I love that.
And so, again, you've never seen a Black story this factually accurate, but then one that you can touch.
Yeah, literally.
One that you can touch. And so as for next steps for our project, on Monday, the film, it's so crazy how this all happened. When we first started to do some digging, Virginia Public Media, who came to us and they said, here's a $15,000 grant. Just start filming everything y'all are doing with this project. And this was 5 years ago. So then when we start realizing like we're on to something here, because remember when we started this, it was who is Jackson and Jackson Ward. We didn't know who Skipwith was at the time. But then we started to recover information about Skipwith. It's about 3 years ago. We go back to VPM and we're like, hey, America 250 is coming up. We think we have a story here. And they were game. We pitched PBS. And now we're telling the story of Skipwith along with 3 other forgotten foremothers and forefathers. James Lafayette is going to be one of the people covered. Mom Bet, Elizabeth Freeman is going to be covered. Harry Washington and Skipwith. And so remember I said downstairs what the goal is to make him whole and so he can rest well and make him a household name. And we hope that on Monday, June 29th, 10 p.m. EST on all PBS channels across the country, that will be accomplished. And when I even think about this painting by S. Ross Brown, who was a finalist for the National Portrait Gallery in London, by the way, I think about the fact that we have tried to activate his stories through so many different mediums, and we hope that the story translates for everyone, regardless of how you identify, because he is a founding father in his own respective right.
For sure.
Yeah.
And this is the removal.
Unapologetically moved it. Like it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah. How easy was it for you all to, like the items in the home and, the partnership with making sure that this story is told? That, clearly this is all time period, right? Or were people just ready to give
Oh, yes.
items to you?
I mean, if you can't tell, again, we did not rehearse this, but if you look around, this is a community project. You can't pull this off without community. Yeah. And I'm talking about community has been across Virginia and the entirety of the United States of America. People have leaned in and really stood behind this project and really invested. And, I said this at the grand opening, look what happens when you invest in Black stories. First of all, people want to learn about this. It is of interest. And we can do excellent work when you give us the resources in order to do it. So I think that, one of the things that me and my sister want is for this to become a blueprint. We did the research, we did the archaeological analysis, we did the architectural analysis. We tried to serve as a blueprint for historic preservation, but also we don't consider ourselves historic preservationists. Again, we just two little Black girls that ask a question. Yeah. And then we went where the ancestors led us. And so shout out to everybody who has contributed to this project. It would not be possible without the people.
For sure. Well, you all, I do want to do a quick pan real quick so you all can see this. I am going to be very cognizant of her time because she is quite a busy lady, and she just finished her interview at the Breakfast Club, which aired today.
It did. Please check it out. It's available on their website and on Netflix. It was really nice to kind of like activate history at that intersection. And next weekend we'll be at Essence Fest doing the screening on July 3rd at 11 a.m. in the Convention Center. If you find yourself there, we'll be with the Global Black Economic Forum because again, Skipwith to us is an economic blueprint.
For sure.
And then we'll be at Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival on August 9th at 7:30 for a screening. And please follow us. And I know you're going to go upstairs. And the reason I want to mention this, we have a rooftop at the JXN Haus, and it is specifically designed to face the highway as an act of both like remembrance and reflection so that we don't forget what happened to this community, right? Why I'm mentioning that, remember we were talking about like to sleep with your enslaver, you just don't get a break. Like what was your nervous system like as an enslaved person? Now that I'm in this community, because what's also important to know is that after they erased over 1,000 homes and businesses, they then shepherded Black Americans into the public housing facility that they then built called Gilpin Court, right? Imagine taking people's intergenerational wealth and then shepherding them into public housing. Now that I am in this community every single day, because I descend from Jackson Ward, but I don't descend from public housing as my origin story. But now that I'm here, this highway is so loud between the pollution from the cars and the tractor trailers, but the noise, right? Then you compound that with the poverty and the violence and the constant predicament of being Black and placed in this community. I've been thinking a lot about our nervous systems as Black Americans, and I just want to hold space for that, like so much when we think about just all that we inherit. I've been thinking a lot about that. So also just giving more grace for the Black predicament and all that looks like for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in closing, and I always ask this question, right?
Yes.
I think that being inquisitive is a superpower.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
Because it was for you all, right? You were inquisitive, 10 minutes turns into an eternity, right?
I'm using that. That's a whole bar though, okay?
So I always ask people for your own self, right? And legacy and what now this means to you, right? Because this levels it up, right? For your legacy and the work that you have done here, what does this add to what that legacy looks like, right? Because obviously your father has a legacy as well, right? And now his offsprings are doing their thing and still making an impact in the community. So what does legacy look like for you with this project being added to it?
That's so crazy. I haven't thought about that.
We were not often asked that while we were alive. Right? Because we always have to be 95 years old before we're asked that question.
It's so interesting because I think in our time together, I pay homage to my dad. I pay homage to Skipwith. I pay homage to Jackson Wardians. I don't view me and my sister, I don't know. That's such an interesting question because I just view us as vessels. I haven't thought about this as part of my legacy.
But you should.
Per se. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just haven't. I've thought of it as an assignment to make sure that the legacies of others, even when you come and you see the pole banners of all the historic Jackson Wardians for the streets, I've never placed me and my sister beyond just being a conduit.
But now you all are forever tied to it, because when people Google displaced, then your name's going to be a close second, right?
That's so interesting. I don't have an answer because I've never been asked that, and I've never spent time with that.
Yeah, at some point. Because I think that oftentimes the work that we do, and I've been encouraged to be more conscientious about this as well, is like, what is your contribution to that fabric, right? Like you now have a needle and thread that is incorporated in what that looks like from a preservation standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, and so forth and so on. And so just some food for thought.
That is some food for thought. What a great way to end. I don't know, because I don't have any kids, so Benji's my only legacy.
Benji,
and,
you got the answer? You got the answer? Come on, give us something.
Any cute. Any cute. I know you're just so cute. This only legacy I got is this book.
We're gonna get that answer at some point. I'm gonna follow up with her, y'all. But so where can people find you personally, if you don't mind? And then also, of course, the site. Shout out to your family as well.
Thank you.
In part in this, and everyone that's been involved in this project.
Everybody.
And visit Richmond and visit Black Richmond.
In Richmond,
as
dope?
Well. Yes, yes.
Richmond's dope, man.
Yeah, for sure.
You got some history. You can eat really good here.
And I did, yeah.
I know, arts, culture.
Yeah.
It's so good. Follow us at the JXN Project on all platforms and the JXNproject.org, and you can find me, you can find my sister, and you can find all the things that we're doing.
That's what's up. I greatly
Welcome
appreciate
home.
you.
1 in 4 Black Americans can retrace their roots here.
That's what's up.
So welcome home.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Of course.